Good morning, graduates, and good morning to all the supporters who've come to share the day with you. To the class of 2012, my congratulations on your graduation today from one of the best universities in the world. And welcome to the 1%. Only 6.7% of the world's population have college degrees, and only a handful of those have gone to a school as fine as Cal Berkeley. So go ahead, like it or not, realize, maybe for the first time, that you are a 1%er. And along with that comes privileges, opportunity, and responsibility. What's it mean to have entered this exclusive club? It means you're smart, and that you've been a diligent student, and in ways small and large, you've had gifts of good fortune. Where and when you were born, your genetic parents, who helped you grow up, who supported your ambitions, your family, your community, your school, a teacher, maybe even an unknown donor who invested in unknown students. You are honored here today, but it really isn't only about you. Look around at the diversity of your classmates who've come from dozens of countries around the world. They come from all these different places because talent knows no bounds. Talent is universal, but opportunity is not. There are millions and millions and millions who have no chance to be in this 1%. This moment, you are the fortunate bearer of both talent and opportunity. You're graduating from a special place, made even more special by the appointment of Dean Lyons. I admire that he took a serious and deep look at the school. He questioned the status quo, and he addressed the essence of the school's mission. What are we doing here? What is this thing we seek? Leadership. What are the values of the people we want to choose Haas, and what are the values we hope to see in our alumni, the people who we expect to be ethical, responsible leaders in an interconnected world? As you know, and as he just repeated, and I'm going to repeat again, he defined 4 essential principles to address these pressing questions. And I might alert you that if you do not know them yet, please do not expect to pick up a diploma. I suspect you have some critical questions about these principles, maybe a nagging doubt. Do these things really matter? Do they matter just in some sort of theoretical or academic sense? The question is, do they work in the real world? With these principles, can I be tough enough? Can I be competitive enough to succeed in a world that looks very competitive and fast-moving? That's where I come in. I'm here to tell you that a young graduate from this program entered the narrow and tight man world of Wall Street in 1970. At least 2 strikes against her. She worked and competed in an industry of constant change and disruption for 30 years, and not only survived, but actually succeeded. And as I look back and thought about the principles, I realized how essential those principles were to my success. If they were strong enough under those conditions, I submit to you, they're going to be strong enough to work for you. Here's the basic story. I graduated in 1968 from Berkeley with a BS degree in business. I had come to be aware that getting a BA required a language, and found that you could get a BS without a language requirement. So to be frank, a love of economics and a failure in French led me to the business school. And this was one of the luckiest turns in my life, but as life goes on, there are so many lucky and some unlucky turns. At that time, there was a furor over Vietnam War and the power of the military-industrial complex. Feminism was a brand new force emerging after publication of the Betty Friedan book, The Feminine Mystique. And environmentalism was stirring after Rachel Carson's book, The Silent Spring. Civil rights were the central storm in our society, and I promise you, nowhere were these issues more seriously taken than here at Berkeley. Like so many others at the time, I was eager to join the forces that would undoubtedly change the country. I believed that corporate America had to change by becoming more inclusive and playing a broader, more positive role in society. And I was ready to be part of the change. Talk about attitude. So an MBA looked to me like the way to pursue this dream, and fearing that I could not get into Haas, I downshifted and went straight to Harvard. Harvard had only recently begun admitting women, and when I arrived at the school that fall, I met the other women. There were 24 of us in a class of 800. In other words, they assigned 3 aliens per section. It was daunting and competitive and hard, but I made it through and I graduated in the top third. But hey, doesn't everyone? Trust me on this, you will never meet a Harvard Business School graduate who did not graduate in the top third. Getting a job was a much greater challenge than going to Harvard, which is to say I couldn't get one. That qualifies as a challenge. The consulting firms at that time would say, we just don't hire women. The wives of our consultants would not want their husbands traveling with one of them. I don't know why we, the women, were not more enraged, but it simply was the way it was. Eventually I got a job at an accounting firm. That was a brief stay, and I had a fling at a startup, but finally I got a job as an analyst on Wall Street, and so my adventure began. I'll give you the shiny version. I started as an analyst on the buy side, switched to the sell side, rose to research director, and then headed up many divisions: equity sales and trading, international sales and trading, a stint in fixed income, and finally CEO of the asset management company. I was the first woman to head a major trading desk, a major research firm, an international division, and one of the first women to head a large asset management company. I was on the 7-person executive team when UBS bought us in 2000, and I was a happy retiree from UBS in 2003. However, interwoven in this shiny story of smooth sailing, there were many setbacks along the way: compensation disappointments, promotion disappointments, and one very high-profile, embarrassing demotion, which luckily I did recover from. In fact, when you hear about success stories, you should know that embedded in them is usually a setback or a failure or two. So simply take note. It happens, and failing is part of the process. Now I'm going to talk briefly about how the principles work for me, in hopes that it suggests a variety of applications that you will see a way for those principles to work for you. The status quo. Now first let me give you a really bad example as just to think about. The first day of my new job on Wall Street, the chairman of the company pulled out a big cigar and said, "Anyone mind?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I do." The room went quiet. Little did I know this was not a question. This was just an opening, and that terrible cigar stench was part of the status quo for investment meetings. On to more successful outcomes. I cannot imagine anyone succeeding without questioning the status quo, which is all about finding solutions to existing problems and improving the business. My natural strength was analytical, so when I moved into management, my ability to analyze the business model and specific problems was key to redesigning business processes, installing different metrics, and leading change. In research, I changed compensation to reward performance. I installed data collection systems to change behavior, created a strategy to improve our outside rankings. In sales and trading, I reorganized our approach to client service by segmenting the client base, move from monitoring revenues only to fully allocated P&Ls, change sales and trading compensation to reward profitability rather than a commission system, and completely revamped the Japanese business. And I love traveling to our office in Japan, and later found out that I was always introduced as famous girl executive. In asset management, I reformatted the product mix, organized investment professionals, set up new investment processes, and had to replace a good percentage of the staff. I go through this list because these may sound a little mundane, but I have found that altering the status quo is filled with fine details that alter the organization here and there to make the major change. Good heavens, it was not possible to not be a student. The world is changing fast today, and maybe even faster than ever. You must be a student to keep up. I love the phrase, I think from Reid Hoffman, that one needs to see oneself as a personal and permanent beta site. Think on that. It's a great concept. However, the rate of change in the last few decades was a challenge too. Each one of us had to constantly adjust to new technologies in our business and our personal work. And the change in financial services was dramatic. The business and competitive environment shifted constantly. Many firms went out of business. Many were acquired, causing lots of reorganization and upheaval at surviving firms. We had new products to develop, new products to sell, new trading systems to install, new strategies to create, new regulations to incorporate, and all within the daily drumbeat of increasingly active, increasingly volatile markets and a daily P&L. Confidence without attitude. Now, a woman from research, and those people were considered the eggheads of the business, a woman from research would not have been promoted to head of sales and trading, and if so, would have failed. The business was truly a boys' club, and my perhaps not surprising cool reception was explained by one trader who said that the traders at the other firms were teasing them unmercifully about working for a girl. Most of them were too embarrassed to tell their wives that such a shocking development had occurred. I had to win their trust and confidence by learning about their jobs, by establishing personal relations, by convincing them that if I could improve the business, I could improve their compensation. There was a lot of work done, but I must tell you that changing the business was one thing, changing the culture quite another. And oh, what a culture it was. You might find it hard to believe, but a regular event on the trading floor was the appearance of a young woman with a boombox. She would have been sent by a client or another trading firm to celebrate one thing or another. So she would set the boombox in the middle of the trading floor, turn it on, and strip in the middle of the trading floor, in the middle of the workday. I saw this as an opportunity to change the status quo. Along with training on discriminatory and sexually hostile behavior, I tried really hard to drag this boys' club into a modern world. In my 30 years at Paine-Webber, I thought beyond myself, but in a really narrow framework. I cared very much about our employees and their families. I supported their personal and professional growth. I tried to treat as many people as possible with fairness and transparency. I honestly counseled underperformers to leave, and even sometimes advised high performers to leave if I judged it to be truly a better opportunity. I was an active mentor to young women particularly, and ensured that we hired more diverse people. I was also very serious about the products that we offered, especially to our retail clients. I fought battles over products I thought were too expensive or too risky, and I won battles over the conflicts between research and investment banking. Luckily, I was able to move much farther beyond myself in my second career by becoming board chair of the nonprofit Acumen Fund. then a new startup in venture philanthropy that applied business principles and business models to philanthropy and development. Our mission is to fund local entrepreneurs in South Asia and Africa who produce goods and services for the poor. We provide capital and management services to local entrepreneurs to get their companies to a point of profit-making level. Then we expect our money to be repaid and the business to attract capital from impact investors seeking a fair return on top of social return. In Acumen's world, the goal is social impact, but financial sustainability is a necessary complement. Central to the Acumen mission has been the attitude that we bring to our work. We treat clients and customers with dignity by listening to their needs rather than prescribing what we think they need. In other words, you might call this philanthropy and development without attitude. In its first 10 years, Acumen put $75 million philanthropic dollars to work and sparked another $350 million into local entrepreneurs. A few failed, but most are succeeding, which means reaching hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of customers with a variety of life-changing products and services: clean water, solar lanterns, rural energy, drip irrigation, malaria bed nets, low-cost housing, health clinics. Many of our companies are now reaching profitability and sustainability. Along the way, important lessons we've learned is that dignity is more important to the human spirit than wealth, that poverty is a description of an economic condition, not of a person, and that market forces alone are insufficient. Some businesses require subsidies, and many require a government or corporate partnership. The last 10 years have been an extraordinary and inspirational time for me, and reaching beyond myself has been a rich gift. I was a hungry student, as always, meeting new people, experiencing new cultures, and helping develop what has become an exclusive movement at the intersection of markets, capital, and the poor. We believe this new approach of development can move mountains, improve lives, and unleash the talents of millions. The things I believed and what I cared about in my Berkeley days are still with me. I believe that business could and should better benefit society. It took a long time, but more companies came to see their responsibility, and more are moving in that direction. I cared about inequality and those left behind. I still do, and eventually found an important way to contribute. I believe the world could be changed, and I got the chance to work with people who, in fact, are doing it. It's possible. So, all of you are here because of your own talents and your persistence, and many of you have had different ways and different opportunities leading to this moment. Be proud of your own talents, your own achievements, and grateful for your opportunities. But please do not forget the unseen others. Among the 1.4 billion people living in poverty around the world, there are those who have the talent to become almost anything in the world, but they are profoundly deprived of the chance. Talent is universal, and opportunity is not. I hope you will remember this and find ways in the coming years to contribute to this condition. So, dear graduates, please know you have been well prepared to assume positions of leadership as your future unfolds. You will question the status quo. This is just not a suggestion. This is a mandate. There is not a single organization operating in a static environment. Every element is changing, and I think the status quo is a plan to fail. You will always be a student. You won't have a choice. You will be constantly called upon in your professional and personal lives to understand new developments and learn new lessons. You, as the permanent personal beta site. Confidence without attitude is a really good recommendation. I've seen confidence with attitude succeed, but it is a really long fall when there's a problem. Without attitude, There'll be some cushions along the way, and you're much more likely to survive the fall. Finally, act and think beyond yourself. This is the inspiration. This is what makes the world a better place. This is the mark of exceptional, path-bending leadership. Reach for this and change the world. Thank you.